Time is our most valuable asset. You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. She's sitting right next to me, and we're going to have a great show. Now, that quote that I started out with, time's our most valuable asset, is from Jim Rohn, and that's a quote that Patty and I have lived our life by, at least so far.
Yes, and realizing that time is our most valuable asset is what prompted Dan and I to go full-time RVing almost 3 years ago. The whole thought was to get out and really experience things that this country has to offer. And in that time, oh my goodness, we've had incredible experiences.
We really have had some incredible experiences. Now, that horn means it's time for today's fun fact, brought to you by Open Road Resorts, with 4 great locations, one in Montana, one in Idaho.
2 in Montana.
2 in Montana, one in Idaho, and 1 in Texas. Now, Patty and I had the opportunity to be at the Texas facility last month, and we just loved it there. We were parked nose into that beautiful lake, and the sunset there was incredible.
Yes, it's an amazing campground. They've really thought of it all. There's lots to do in the area, lots to do at the campground, beautifully manicured. But there's another campground, I have to say, in our fun fact that I want to visit, and that is the Disney's Fort Wilderness Lodge Resort. Now, the prices here are very different than the Open Road Resorts locations, and their prices, the fun fact is their prices are
prices, you mean Fort Wilderness prices?
Fort Wilderness prices, sorry about that, are between $96 and $305.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, a night. Now, the big range in price has many different factors. Number one, they have sites that are everything from 10 sites to your big premium sites for your bigger RVs. They can accommodate just about anybody, but the time of year, the type of site really varies on price. So you really have to do your research if you're thinking of going to Disney's Fort Wilderness Lodge.
Now, I will say most definitely Disney's Fort Wilderness Lodge Resort is our next stay when we come back to this area. Now, the last time we were here, you and I took a boat from the Magic Kingdom over and we checked this place out. It is gorgeous. I mean, so well manicured. All the employees are Disney employees. They're the nicest people. They're the happiest people on earth. It is really someplace that you want to go. Their check-in process is like a machine. The sites were just absolutely incredible. They've got horseback riding over there. They've got boats over there. It is beautiful. I can't tell you how nice this place was.
Wow, you're really liking that. Now,
I loved it.
We just spent 3 weeks in the Disney area, and we stayed at Thousand Trails Orlando. And for us, that 3-week stay was free to us. We don't pay for the 3 weeks.
With our membership.
With our membership. I was going to explain that. We do pay, so people don't get their feathers in a ruffle. We do pay our membership fee. And even with our membership fee, our overall camping cost overall is about $9 a night. Yes, you heard that right, about $9 a night. Now, the Thousand Trails Orlando campground is about 25 minutes from the Disney parks. It's not bad. I mean, there were a number of nights we went back and forth. It's not bad. We do love it here at Thousand Trails Orlando, but next time we are definitely going to be on Disney property.
We really are next time. Now, I do have to say that Disney's property here, it's about the size of Manhattan.
The whole Disney property, you're talking about
all
the
of
different,
Disney World down here.
The 4 parks.
The parks and all Disney Springs and all the other stuff. And all
Manhattan,
their property.
wow. And we walked pretty much all of that over the last 3 weeks. but we are so we're here at Disney World. We spent 2 weeks going to Disney World, and they are in their 100-year anniversary right now. And that means that 100 years ago, Walt Disney had this idea to build Disney World. Now, I don't know if he imagined the 4 different parks. So for those of you who don't know, there's Disney World, there's Epcot, there's Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom, and Disney Springs, which is a great big shopping, dining area, very Disney-like. I don't know that he imagined all that, but we are here celebrating the 100-year anniversary of Walt Disney first imagining these things being built. I just can't imagine.
I can't either. 100 years ago, think about this for a second. There were no cell phones. There were no Teslas. There were no anything new and cool that's out there. None of that stuff even existed yet. And Disney imagined this entire property. They told us on the tram the other day, over 40 square miles. It's just beautiful here. They have transportation with buses everywhere. They take you from your car into the park that you're parking in. They tell you all about what's going on. It is really, really amazing. But what's really amazing and what we're going to talk about today is your imagination and your dreams. Walt Disney dreamed that he could build this place. And at the same time, he was dreaming about Disney World and this great big thing here. He was also dreaming about Disneyland and building Disneyland at the same time out in California. The man's imagination just never stopped. And his drive and determination never stopped. But the way to make dreams come into reality, there's a process to that. And that's something that you and I study and we speak on, and we're with people, talking to people all the time about this stuff. And that's a lot of what we're going to do today, is talk about all of those things. So we're going to get back to the RV Life podcast right after this.
Does dropping your motor coach off at the truck stop full of semi-trailers for new tires give you nightmares? Eliminate the unknown and get your new motorhome tires mounted while you watch at your campsite or wherever you are parked. Motorhometires.com takes care of the entire process for you. We come to you with your new tires, mount them, add balance beads, and we even dispose of your old tires. With motorhometires.com, you'll also enjoy great prices and new tires with guaranteed fresh date codes, and enjoy sweet dreams instead of truck stop nightmares with your friends at motorhometires.com.
Protecting your RV investment means being ready for anything. An extended RV warranty from Wholesale Warranties is the best way to make sure that if an RV failure happens, you can afford to get back to enjoying the RV life as soon as possible. RV warranties are available for motorhomes, fifth wheels, and travel trailers, new and used, across the U.S. Visit wholesalewarranties.com for a free personalized RV warranty quote today and hit the road with peace of mind tomorrow.
You're listening to the RV Life podcast. I'm Dan Hunt, your host, along with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. And I always say she's right over there because she sits next to me while we do this show. Now, today's show is about making time for yourself and what's important to you. Our number one priority, this is Dan and Patty's number one priority, is to spend time with family. And the RV lifestyle has allowed us to do just that. Not just taking 2 weeks at Disney like we are right now, but taking time to spend 6 months with Patty's mother when she was on hospice. Spending quality time with all 9, not 1, not 2, not 3, all 9 of our grandchildren all over this country from the East Coast to the West Coast. Over the last 3 years, we are so grateful for the time that we have.
Today, Dan and I are talking about time. And we're doing things different today. So if you've listened to the show before, we often have a guest on and we ask questions and we have conversation. But today, what we're doing different is asking you, the listeners, the questions. And yes, we want you to not only think about your answers, but we want you to write them down. Stay with us, play along, and, really think about what you want in these questions and get them written down somewhere. Now, question 1, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? We know some of you just said or thought,
I don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. I'm not sure where I want to go. I just want to go everywhere. I don't know how to make that happen. But guess what? It all starts with a thought and a belief that you can.
yes. So not only just writing down your answer and thinking about it and believing it. This is really the very first step in making what you want a reality. As Dan said, time's our most valuable asset. So what are we going to do with the time we have? If we don't start planning, well, time gets away from us. Now, question 2. How do you make your dream a reality? So we heard about Walt Disney. He imagined Disney World. How many of you have been to Disney World, seen videos of it, looked at pictures of it, dreamed of someday going? I know maybe for some of you, it's not your place.
Now, I'll tell you what, I watched a documentary while I was in the park about Walt Disney, and I saw him walking through this moat area out here that is Disney World. Because moat. There's water everywhere.
Okay.
There's
Just
water
being clear.
everywhere.
Got it. Yes. It's
walking through with 1940s rubber boots on, and he could see it. He would sit and tell his team, Main Street's going to be right here. And there'll be this, and there'll be cars, there'll be fire trucks, there'll be people, there'll be guys selling balloons. And you know what? It's all there.
Yes.
He saw it in his head. And that's what you have to do, is you have to write those dreams down, talk about them with others that will support you. Patty's going to talk a little bit about that in a second. Even if these dreams sound crazy, you don't think that half the people that Walt Disney talked to thought he was nuts?
Yes.
Well, they did. But guess what?
Yep.
It's here. It's here, and it is working.
And it grows bigger and better, and something more is created all the time. Now we're talking about Disney. This week, Dan and I are in Disney World, and we're here with a total, including Dan and I, 15 people. So let me explain. It's Dan and I, my brothers, my sister, 2 of my kids that are married, so 4 kids, and my other daughter. So 5 total kids and 5 grandkids. Now, some of you are already saying 15 people. I'm out. That sounds crazy. Yeah, maybe a little crazy, but to 15 people together here in Disney. Now, it started with a thought a year ago. We knew my mother was coming near her end. Disney has always been a family vacation place for my family. We love Disney World. We have all things Disney, Minnie Mouses hanging in our RV. That's our decorations. And so when we first started talking about it, it's how do you arrange 15 people? And it's really 5 different families, 5 different locations, arranging that. So it took time, it took planning, it took some imagination. And we started that, like I said, a year ago. And I'm sure for some of us, we're like, oh, I don't know how this had happened, or it's never going to happen, or whatever that looked like. But here it is. We are literally at the end of our 2-week stay, a week with the whole family. And we made it work. And it probably worked out better than I could have even imagined with that many people.
But that's because we all sat down at Michael's house and we imagined it. We could close our eyes and see all of these people. And I got to tell you, there is not a better feeling in the world than watching a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old walk up to something and see it for the very first time. The smile on their face is just unimaginable. And, I think all of that is just so important.
Yes, yes, to have a couple, the one youngest kid and two of the older kids hadn't been here. So just to paint the picture, there was a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 7-year-old, and two 4-year-olds for the kids. And like Dan said, just to watch that. And that was my goal, is to see these kids really enjoy this time. We made it happen together. Everybody made this happen.
We really did, and it was great. It was really, really great. Now, for our loyal listeners out there, we're doing things a little different today. We do not have a guest. So Patty and I are going to fill in all the guest parts ourselves, but we don't have a guest. But we still have to take breaks, and we're going to talk about what are your dreams after the break. And how do you get started realizing your dreams? We'll talk about that after the break. And we're going to talk about taking action. So for those loyal listeners out there, Bob and Jeff, chill. You're going to have a great show anyway, but I'm telling you, you want to stick around for this one. Get a pencil, get a piece of paper, write some of this stuff down, because you are going to want to talk about it.
The most important part of your RV is the roof. If your roof leaks, your trip and your RV get ruined. You can take it to a dealership or service center to be maintained at their expensive rates. Or you can maintain it yourself over a weekend for a fraction of the cost. Liquid Rubber RV roof products will keep you dry and leak-free. Visit shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife. Use coupon code RVLifePod15 to save 15%. That's shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife.
National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding, hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit NIRVC.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family.
I am so happy we are part of the National Indoor RV Centers family. We always call them NIRVC, because one of Dan and my dreams now is to purchase our next RV. And that is how are we going to do it, blah, 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 all of that. Well, one thing we know is National Indoor RV Centers is where we will purchase it, because these people have integrity. Brett Davis is the owner. And from the time we met him, as well as the people at his locations that we have met, they are just real and authentic people. And I can honestly say I trust them. And so that is where we'll be purchasing our next RV.
Now, we are at Disney World, and we've spent the last 7, 14 days, 15 days, I don't know. It just feels like we've been here forever, and we've been doing 10,000 steps a day. So I'm tired, and it's been a long, long week and a half, 2 weeks. But we're talking about dreams today. And, we talk about Walt Disney because we're at Walt Disney World. But Brett Davis, yes, I'm going to compare Brett Davis to Walt Disney because he had a dream. He had a vision to do it better, to reinvent the RV industry and do it better. He has service as one of his top priorities in his dealerships. And if you go to any NIRVC, any one of their 6 facilities across the country, you got to be so impressed. We went into Dallas, their home store, their #1 store. It was as close to going to Disneyland as you can possibly. It was Disneyland for RVers, I'll tell you that.
Right.
It was beautiful. They have a campground there. They have a paint shop there. They have all kinds of stuff. Brett Davis, you are my hero. I've got to tell you, you have done this exactly the way that it should be done. And it is absolutely beautiful.
Now, so we're talking about dreams and we're talking about imagining things. And I guess we have to go back. We are going to talk to Brett Davis next month. We're going to see him. We're going to speak to him. So I want to ask him how it all started. What did the dream look like? Because again, he had a thought and a dream, and then it became 6 locations. One of them is currently getting ready to open up, right? And the one outside of DC, they're looking to expand. So it's when you look at big people or people who have success, they've gone through these same processes. So as Dan said, what's the dream? So I want you to, if you're in the car right now, I know Jeff Sather from Freightliner listens every week in the car. You don't have time to pull over and write it down, but promise you'll do it when you get your paper and pencil. And we would love you guys to share. What are your dreams? Share it with us on social media. I know a lot of people send me private messages. Social media is RV Life Podcast, Instagram or Facebook. Private message me, send me a text message. Love to hear from you. What are some of your dreams? And if you say, I don't know, I don't have them, get that paper. I use paper and pencil. So I journal every day. I do use paper and a pencil, literally. But if you want to use it electronically, if you want to put it on a board and put it up, whatever you want to do, it's got to somehow be written so that you have your dreams.
Now I'm going to give you an inside picture of our dreams. Our dreams were my dreams were to RV full time. Even before I met Patty, I always had this dream of RVing full time. And I remember one Saturday afternoon, we were just out and about, and we drove down 202, and we pulled into an RV dealership, and Patty's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, it's an RV dealership. They're having a sale today, so they have free hot dogs." So we go into the RV dealership, and I start showing her these great big $500,000 RVs. But this has always been one of my dreams. It's always been one of the things. And the way I dream, or the way that I realize my dreams, is I like to visualize. So for me, getting in that RV and visualizing myself sitting in that front seat, riding down the street, visualizing Patty and I sitting on the captain's chairs that we have right behind me here. It's how I make things happen. So I started doing that right at the beginning when I sold this to Patty, that this is the idea. We're going to see the whole country. We're going to visit every national park.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because a lot of our listeners don't know how it went down. So I think we should tell the story. So Dan had this dream of full-time RVing before he met me. I didn't know this. So didn't think about it, didn't know this, wasn't on our radar.
Just remember, I had a dream.
Yes. As a lot of you may or may not know, Dan and I have 5 kids between us, and 4 of them are now married. But when we met, 5 kids, none of them were married. So now, fast forward to 3 years ago, let's tell the story of how we ended up in an RV, because it was never my thought or dream at all.
Well, me, I'm sitting here on my computer during the day where I would always look at RVs.
I did
a lot of at the house
in Las Vegas. Okay,
I'm looking at RVs. I'm looking for what's for sale. I'm looking how much they cost, and I'm not even worried about how I'm going to finance them. I'm worried about what are we going to do, and where are we going to find one. So we started looking for RVs during COVID.
Right.
We started looking for RVs during COVID.
I just want to be real clear with our listeners. Dan started looking for RVs during COVID. So
you went with me.
Wait. I'm talking about before. So let's backtrack. Here we are in COVID. It was 2020. It's COVID. Business is shut down. Dan and I can't work. Money's not coming in, but money kept going out. So Dan is up in his office, unbeknownst to me, looking at RVs. So that's the setup. Now, Dan calls me up to his office and says, "Hey, let's go RVing full time." My response was just to start laughing.
Can you believe it? She was laughing.
I was laughing. I was laughing at him, not with him, at him. And I look up and I see this man is serious. I couldn't even think about what is he even talking about. So when I realized he was serious, I was like, what? Wait, huh? And then over another couple days, I think I walked away at that point, just shaking my head. And then we talked a little more about it. How are we going to do this? Why? I hadn't even been RVing. I had been in an RV for 7 nights, maybe, prior to this conversation. I tent camped once for a weekend where a torrential downpoured and I got soaked. That was my experience with this whole RVing, camping type thing. I'm doing air quotes right now. And so I couldn't even picture, imagine, or dream of this. And then he started talking about it. And then we started watching people's YouTube videos, the big RVers. And I started to be able to picture a life of living on the road. Now, I will say I never expected it to be what it is now. It's better, but that's how it all got started. So Dan had this dream, and I kind of came along for the ride. And now, my dream is to see the rest of the country.
She still won't drive the RV, though.
I have not driven the RV. It is 20 years old. We need a new one. My dream now is that next RV. Now that I know exactly what I want the kitchen on the driver's side. If anybody knows why it should be on the driver's side, reach out. I want the kitchen on the driver's side. So again, like we said, what's the dream? And sometimes when there's two people talking about dreams together and figuring out how do you do that together. So that's step one. And we're telling our listeners, get that written down.
What are your dreams? Identify your dreams. Let's get them written down. We put them on a vision board, but a lot, all you need to do is just write them down on a piece of paper. It makes it real when you write them down.
Yes. And that's part of
and
the
they
how
don't
to get
have
started.
to be about RVing either. We're using the example of us as RVing, but they could be about anything. We have here to full-time RV, to see the country, and we have seen so many incredible things in this country. We have met so many incredible people in this country.
Absolutely. And so, how do you get started? Dan said that was the next question. Well, writing it down is the first thing. It makes it real. I will say that wherever you write it down, don't just put it aside. Don't just stuff it in a book. Make it so you can see it. I pin things to the mirror sometimes. Being in an RV is a little different, but you want to see it. And again, it could be about health. It could be about relationships, things you want, and places you want to see, experiences you want to have. There's no limit is, I guess, the point. But once you write it down, share it with people. Now, be careful of that, because sometimes sharing with people, there are a lot of people out there that don't have dreams. And so they want to knock yours, not to be negative, but we know those people. So share with the people that are willing to support you. And here's the thing. There was Walt Disney standing in a swamp. This was swampland here at what Disney has built. And he said, I'm going to build. Well, 100 years ago, they really didn't have the technology to build on swampland. And so there were people who laughed at him. There were people who said no. He made sure he surrounded himself with people that were going to support him.
People that could see his idea, that could believe in his concept and his imagination. And his imagination was just incredible. Now, for me, when I first started thinking about going full-time, well before we even left Philadelphia to go live in Las Vegas, I told all of our friends, and one friend, Rich, who is a very forward-thinking, positive-minded person, always said to me, did you get your tiffin yet? Did you get your tiffin yet? Did you get your tiffin yet? He didn't understand or necessarily believe in our vision, but he knew it was our vision and he supported whatever we wanted to do. And that's the kind of people that you need to have around you, is people that will support you, even if they can't really see it.
And we had a lot of supportive friends, because when we said we were thinking about going full-time RVing, there are people that were, I can't even imagine what that looks like. They had no, frame of reference. They had never been. They had no experience, but they supported us still. So that's the same thing. There were people who surrounded Disney or any of these people who created something incredible that maybe couldn't fathom exactly how it was going to get worked out, but knew it would. And taking it down on a smaller level, being at Disney, 5 different families, coming together at the same place at the same time, whether it was driving a car, flying, we came through with an RV, and being in the same place. While I didn't know how it was all going to work out, I just trusted that it would, and different people kind of manage different things. So my brother is great at, being the organizer, managing it all, and I could let go and let him do that. So part of creating a dream is creating those people around you that help and support the overall mission. And I think, just to say, I think that's the same thing with the RV Life podcast. For a lot of you, that listened the week before last, or 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary of the RV Life podcast. Now, Dan and I had come to me a year and a half ago and said, hey, let's do a podcast. And I just couldn't even think about it, fathom, figure it out, how it was going to work. And just believing that it could happen and putting it down on paper and allowing things to move into place, Patrick from RV Life came to us and said, hey, we're thinking about a podcast. And Dan and I said, hey, we're thinking about a podcast. And the podcast, was created and within months was in the top 10% of all podcasts. Just blew me away, like beyond my wildest dreams. And then 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and we are in the top 5% of all podcasts. The point is, not to brag at all. The point is to go for your dream, imagine it. It doesn't always work out perfect. It doesn't always work smoothly. There were ups and downs. There were challenges. But, having a dream and going for it, and then being able to look back and realize the success. And sometimes success is just getting through the challenges. I think that's a big thing. The people out there listening, to our listeners, you might not be the next Disney, but maybe you are.
Well, I know Brett Davis is just right there with Disney. I mean, what he has created is, to me, as amazing as Disney World and Disneyland, because I walk in that place and I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Wow, that's pretty.
And he's still going. I mean, he's got ideas all the time. So, let's go back through that process of realizing your dreams. The first thing you have to do is identify those dreams.
Yeah.
And once you identify them, you want to write them down. There's something about writing something down that makes it real as opposed to just a thing out there. How do you get started? Well, you write the dreams down, you talk to others, and you imagine yourself being successful in those dreams. When you close your eyes, you can see yourself. When I close my eyes, I can see myself driving a new RV. I know what I want. I know how it's going to feel. We know what we want. And when I lay down on the bed at night, I close my eyes very gently and I picture myself in that new RV. I picture myself fighting to get all of our stuff into the new RV. Fighting with myself to get all of our stuff in.
And so we're talking, and this is like visualization, I guess. It's happened and it's worked for us. It's not necessarily a breeze. It takes time. And I want our new RV, I hope, by the end of January of 2024 or sooner. But sometimes things don't happen in the exact timing. Don't let that get you discouraged. But let's just I just want to be really honest and transparent here. Do we have all the ways to finance it and get it done and make it all happen? No, Dan and I are looking at, little bit of challenges, but
a lot of bit of challenges.
Okay. And again, it's going to be a new to us RV, not necessarily a brand new RV off of the line. But we know that even though it's not a breeze and we can't just write a check right now for a full new RV, the things fall into place. And I think that's the thing for people to remember. I see a lot of people that have a dream, it didn't turn out, they get discouraged. And I think that's an important message here to make sure to keep going, that things sometimes work out differently. And sometimes the way they work out, I got to say, here's a good example. There were 2 times recently in the last 6 months that we were driving on the road, okay? And somebody took a wrong turn. Twice. I'm getting faces over here. Dan's making faces at me because you can't see, I have to tell you. But there were 2 times Dan made a wrong turn, since I'm not the one that drives. And there was like a panic, obviously, because you're in an RV. It's 40 foot. We are towing a Jeep. It's a lot of, a lot, and you don't want to have to turn around. But actually, both of those times that we took a wrong turn and there were some words said, they both worked out better than staying on the road we were on. Miraculously, one of the times we didn't go through a tunnel that we didn't want to go through anyway. Another time it would have taken us by a city that we did not want to go through. So we went a little bit out of the way, but it was better. So it's sometimes the same thing with a dream. You have a dream. We have a couple different manufacturers we're looking at. But sometimes being open to something that might come along that turns out better. I just want to, let people know that, sometimes those detours or those supposed mistakes turn out better. So that's how. And, taking action. You want to talk a little bit about action taking?
Well, taking action in my world, okay, this is the way that I do it, is going to an RV show. Now, we are very busy at the RV show. We're going to do the RV Life podcast in front of a live audience every day of the show, except maybe the last day.
Well, we said
That's Sunday.
Yeah, we might be doing it Sunday too. So every day of the Tampa RV Super Show you're talking about.
Every day of the Tampa RV show. We're doing the podcast during the day, but I am going to take time every day and identify the units that are on my hit list. And then I want to go sit in those units and just visualize myself living in that unit.
Yes, absolutely. And this is part of it. And like Dan said, sometimes he'll go in and he'll just sit down and he wants to sit there for 10 and 15 minutes and talk about anybody else that comes into the RV. And honestly, I would get kind of like when Dan would do this before we even thought about going RVing, I was like, this is nuts. But I do agree now. You've got to be in it. You've got to live it. If you're looking at your next house or you're looking to buy a car, go to the car dealership, sit in it, look at it, be with it. That's a thing, and I think that does help in creating your dreams. I really think that's a big step. Now, we do go into dealerships. We have sit in a lot of RVs. And I know I could rule out, like you were saying, a Class C. I've got it ruled out now. I don't want a Class C. You said, let's look at a gas unit. I don't want a gas unit. So there's going into things and doing things and looking at things that also help knowing what you don't want helps you solidify what you do want. So steps to creating your dream.
Well, it's the same thing with buying a house. Effectively for us, it's buying a house and it's even more important because this 500 square feet or less that we live in, there's two of us living in this all the time. So you got to make sure that you are comfortable with what you have.
Absolutely.
It's really, really important. And since next week at the Tampa RV show, we're going to be at the Freightliner booth doing the podcast at 12:30, is it? 12:30 every day?
It's 12:30, and it'll be 2 or 3 weeks from this episode. So 3
2
weeks.
or 3 weeks from this episode comes out. But, you also want to take into account when you're looking at RVs, what is the chassis? Because the chassis, the foundation of your house is probably one of the most important decisions that you have to make when you're buying a new RV.
I think it's the most important decision.
Yeah.
And
Let me ask you that question 6 months ago. You don't even know what a chassis was.
And I'm willing to admit that it's actually been almost a year. So again, let's tell the story. Dan was in Tampa at the show last year, so just short of a year now. Can't believe the whole year's gone by. And he said that he's going to interview Jeff Sather, the president of Freightliner. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But what are you going to talk about that's going to mean something to our listeners or to me even? Like, I'm the same as our listeners because I didn't understand. He said, Freightliner is the chassis. Okay. Now, I'm going to be very honest. I thought the chassis was just the metal frame. Okay, big deal, but not that big a deal. So Dan, I had to fly back to be with my mom. Dan does the interview. Jeff Sather is one of the kindest, most amazing men that I've met. He's the president.
Ever.
Yes, he's the president of Freightliner, and he is just a real human being and just incredible. Anyway, so I listened to this podcast. I'm like, wait a minute, they're not just talking about a metal frame here. So then I did have the opportunity to talk to and finally meet Jeff and Hershey to find out that the chassis is literally everything except your living room area, like
And
your
bedroom.
living room, bedroom, kitchen. So your kitchen sink, that's not the chassis, but everything else, your engine,
Heater.
everything, your heater, your airbag, your things that I don't even know that's under there. Your fuel pump that cost us $8,000 to have replaced a couple months ago. Everything is on the chassis. So I know I'm going off track here, but we'd like to let our listeners know how important these things are. And the chassis is important. So we are going to be in Tampa. Jeff is so kind as to have us come in to the Freightliner booth and do our podcast live. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it. Dan does some crazy things during these live podcasts. You never know what to expect.
And we're going to do something groundbreaking. We're going to have 2 podcasts there, one from RV Destinations Magazine and ours. And we're the 4 of us, 2 couples. We're going to sit down together and we're going to do both of our podcasts at the same time together.
And we have never done that, nor have they. So wish
Nor
us
have
luck.
many people at all ever.
Yes,
yeah.
no, many people haven't. Wish us luck. And if you're going to be there, come join us, be in the audience, ask questions.
I have a wireless mic set up that I'm going to go out into the audience and ask all kinds of questions.
We're still debating whether I'm going to let you up out of the seat. Jeff was there the last time you got up out of your seat and saw.
So that was the wind's fault.
Yeah. So again, if you didn't hear about that, go back and listen to the podcast with Air Skirts. It is hilarious. If you weren't there, you missed it. There's a couple pictures on our Instagram and Facebook pages of what happened when I let Dan out of his seat. But now back to the whole purpose of the show is time is our most valuable asset. So if time is your most valuable asset, then dreaming and living your dreams is so very important. And I just want to add here, being with my mom for 6 months while she was in hospice and being able to talk to her. She was 87 years old. She went peacefully, which I'm very grateful. But the one thing that she shared with me over and over again was the regrets that she had through her life because she didn't do the things she wanted. One of her greatest joys was her 3 kids, her kids that were married, her grandkids. She's got 3 amazing grandkids, and she's got 5 great grandkids that they were her joy. And she also regretted not getting out and not having experiences, always being afraid, never, sharing what her dreams were. So she didn't dream, she didn't share, she didn't accomplish. And, if anything, if I can pass on something that an 87-year-old said, that would be, don't waste your life. Use the time you have. And none of us know how long that time is. So there's my message for this podcast.
Well, I do know a thing or two about time, so I'm going to push this button right here. And that sound means it's time for this week's question of the week, brought to you by Clear2O, your RV water solution. Now, you know what? We all need fresh, clean water. Clear2O has invented a way for RVers to have fresh, clean water all the time. From the water that's in your refrigerator that you drink, to the water that you shower with, to the water that you wash your dishes with. So Clear2O, a great company. You can see all of their information in the show notes below, but you want to have clean, fresh water. Now, one of the ways to have clean, fresh water is to clean your freshwater tank every once in a while. And they have a product called Tank Fresh, right?
Yep.
Tank Fresh. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing. When we were learning about cleaning our freshwater tank, this company came out and they said, yeah, we put bleach in it. We leave it for a couple days and then we come back out and we rinse it out. And Patty's like, there is no way that I'm going to be able to drink water once that thing has been bleached. So Tank Fresh has no bleach in it at all. and it only has to stay in the tank for about 2 hours. So it's a great, great product that every RVer should be using. And you could do it any weekend, any day, wherever you are. Just come get a bottle of Tank Fresh, put it in, let it sit in there for a couple hours, drain it out, and then put fresh water back in your tank. That's all there is to it.
Right. And they will be in Tampa, and we will be interviewing the inventor, Keith, who's also one of the owners, but he invented these products so you could ask him questions. I'm really excited to ask him more questions because, he envisioned something, he created something, just an amazing person. He and his wife run the company, amazing people. You could visit them in Tampa, you could get the product, you could ask questions.
Keith is going to be on the RV Life podcast one of the days from the Tampa show. And I will tell you, hearing his story of why he did this is really, really interesting. We're going to get really deep into that when we do that show.
Absolutely.
So come on out and be a part of our studio audience. There's these really nice camp chairs in the Freightliner booth. There's probably about 50 or 60 chairs in there. And, you're going to be walking around for days. Don't do what I did. And after the third day here at Disney World, be so tired I can't even go out the next day. Take your time, sit, relax a little bit, get a drink. It's in the shade over there and there's some fans going. It's nice and cool. It is a great, great time to just come and listen to some interesting stuff about your RV life.
Okay, so now for the question of the week. And like the rest of this show, it's not exactly what we usually do. We usually have a question from a listener. This is a question that I have been getting, I have been seeing, and people have been trying to answer it. And there's just more confusion than there is light being added to the topic. So I have to put this out there. And the question is about Thousand Trails memberships. And people are asking, what's the membership prices? How many days can I stay in the system? How many days do I have to leave? How many holidays can I stay? Where do I go? There's so many questions around it.
Wait. Where are all these questions?
All of these questions are in social media groups. I get private questions. I talk to people. I'm always out talking to people. So there has just been, over the last month, a blast of Thousand Trails membership questions. And look, I'm a teacher and I like to make sure people have facts. And the problem with it is, I'm going to tell you the problem, that people are, in the best of intentions trying to answer questions like on social media or just standing in a group and somebody answers a question. But the thing is, it doesn't necessarily apply. So let me explain. The thing is, the Thousand Trails has probably been around for over 30 years, right? I'm thinking like 30 plus years they've been around. They started with like 1 or 2 campgrounds and they've grown now. What happened is over those years, the type of membership, the price of membership, the kinds of memberships, the levels of all of these things have changed over time and they will continue to change over time. So the easiest, quickest answer, go to a membership specialist to get your answers. Now, one of the questions I got was, what's the difference between a membership specialist and a Thousand Trails salesperson?
That was my question. You can't use that question on our own show.
Other people are asking this question. So I'm going to say from my experience, and I do not like to say negative, but this is a little negative. What my experience is from a lot of other people gathering a lot of information, the salespeople for Thousand Trails memberships are just that. They are salespeople. They sell the membership and that's it. They're done. There's no follow through. There's no nothing. You buy your membership. I don't know if you could even call them back. You're done. I've heard a lot of people talk about misinformation from them. And again, this isn't 1 or 2 people. This isn't gossip. This isn't hearsay. I've heard this over the last 2+ years. I'm sure there are really good Thousand Trails salespeople. But I recommend membership specialists because they are there to give you the information, find one that's not salesy, find one that's going to follow up if you have questions later, one that's not going to keep calling you and saying, "Are you ready to buy? Are you ready to buy?" So Dan and I, when we got our membership, we used a membership specialist. It's a team, a couple,
Husband-wife team.
a husband-wife team that were just fantastic. They gave us the information. They said, "Hey, do what works for you." We met the people that they were also working with. Now, since then, our membership specialists have retired, but we have been working with this other couple, and their name is Joanna and Patrick Perzo. Okay, is how you say their name, Perzo. And they are fantastic. They answer your questions. There's absolutely no pressure. They're good people. They're kind people. They're honest people. They're authentic people. These are
If they don't know the answer, they're not going to lie to you. They're going to say, "You know what? Let me get back to you on that." And then they're going to go find out the answer.
Right. So it is really important to go to a membership specialist that you like, you trust. Look, it's like going in and buying a car. You have quote unquote car salesman type people that are pressured. They're trying to get you in. They're trying to get you to buy it. They're trying to talk you up on price. Or you could go to somebody that you trust. They're giving you the information. So again, we're doing everything different on this show today. And because there's so much talk about Thousand Trails membership, I had to go on a rant. I guess I've gone on a rant about this for a little while now. Dan's shaking his head, but it is that important. So a membership specialist, I'm putting the name and her phone number in the show notes. Reach out, tell them Dan and Patty sent you, and they'll even try and get you some extra perks with your membership so they have the ability to do that. So Thousand Trails has allowed us to be on the road full time. We would not be able to afford to be on the road full time. And here we are 3 weeks at Thousand Trails Orlando, 25 minutes from Disney World. So I'm excited.
Well, traveling the U.S. roads just got a lot easier because our sponsor, Open Roads Fuel Card, now have partnered with innovative toll solutions. So not only can we buy our diesel fuel cheaper than the rest of you, we're getting from 50 cents to $1 a gallon less on fuel. And there's an app that can tell you where it is, where to go. It's just great. But now, let me just say this. With this innovative toll solutions toll pass, we used to use Easy Pass. And I have to say that Easy Pass was great in the Northeast. But once you get out of the Northeast and you go out to Nevada and you go out to California, it's useless. You come down here to Florida, it works down here in most areas, but not all areas. We have got so many tickets in the last 3 years from going through toll areas where our toll pass didn't work.
Some of that our fault, though. No, I mean, some of it is, the toll thing wasn't in the window. Or
that's your department, not mine.
Yeah, there's not this on it or that. I do love that if you get that, it's called a violation, I guess, or that notice.
Right.
Innovative Open Roads will handle it for you. You just go to them and they handle it. You don't have to be on the phone with these different states. I would have to call each different state to figure it out.
I spoke with the operations director of Innovative Toll Solutions last week, and I have to tell you, he said you will never, ever get on the phone and try to talk to a state again. He said, remember those times you tried to do that? You have to hit 1, then you have to hit 4, then you have to hit 7.
Yes,
and
I know it well.
If you're not off for a second, you got to start all the way at the top. So you'll never, ever have to do that again.
Now, Innovative Toll Solutions, just to give all the details, it does cost $25, which is what our Easy Pass costs. So they're the same price. The $25 is worth it, never to have to call a state again. And there's no way, probably with this new toll pass, it won't be a problem. So that in itself is worth it. That's about what they all cost. So I'm glad they kept it at the same price. Now, Open Roads, as you talked about, that is free to sign up for.
Free.
Free. It is free. You sign up for it. You attach your bank card to it, and you go in and you use their system. And we've gotten sometimes even just 10 cents a gallon off. And you know what? 10 cents a gallon on a 100-gallon tank, and we drive God knows how many miles a month. It pays off. So open roads, definitely the way to go. And now that they have these innovative toll solutions, the
transponder they get,
it's a win.
It covers you. It covers your tow car. It covers everything. It is absolutely incredible. Okay. Now that sound means it's time for this week's RV Life Pro Tip of the Week with our producer, Patrick Buchanan.
We're back this week with another Did You Know for our RV Life Pro Tip of the Week. Did you know that in RV Life Trip Wizard, you can check fuel prices? When on the Trip Wizard map, simply zoom into the area you are looking to fuel up, right-click on the map, and choose Check Fuel Prices. You'll be taken to a new page that has both a map and a list of local fuel stations with their brand, prices, address, and more. The list is filterable by fuel type, fuel grade, and search radius. You can add that fuel station to your trip by copying the address, dropping it into the search bar on your Trip Wizard map, and adding it as a custom stop. You can even download that fuel station list to an Excel spreadsheet. For RV Life, I'm Pat Buchanan with your Pro Tip of the Week.
Now, Patrick, I got to tell you, I didn't know that. I really didn't know that the RV Life RV Trip Wizard program did that. And that's something that's very useful information. And I get to put Patty to work. I mean, I'm driving 5, 6, 7 hours down the road. She's just sitting there yip-yapping on her phone and doing stuff. She can start looking this stuff up to see what the best prices are if we should be stopping at this one or the next one or the next one. And, when you have a tank as big as this with 100 gallons, a 10-cent difference is significant. Right. It's really, really significant money-wise.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, we learned something new, even for ourselves each week, because RV Trip Wizard really does.
It does so much. You could just never learn it all.
Right. Now, I'm really excited about what's to come next month, as we already talked about the Tampa RV Super Show, which is January 17th to the 21st. It's 5 days, Wednesday to Sunday. And we will be there all week. If you see us, if you're out, come say hi. We see so many people, talk to so many people that said, I saw you, I didn't want to bother you. No, come up to us, say hi. I may not be able to stop and have a whole conversation, but we really try and make time to talk to people as we meet them. As we said, we'll be in the Freightliner booth, which is outside the main door, and we will be there recording live every day at 12:30. We do want to thank Freightliner for having us in their booth again. We greatly appreciate it. As Dan said, we're going to do a dueling podcast with RV Destinations Magazine. They're an amazing couple.
You've coined this phrase, dueling podcast.
Okay.
Is that like dueling pianos?
Yeah, we talked about that.
We're going to have a conversation
we'll see.
Competition with them?
I don't know if we'll be competing, but let's see how that goes. Now, Open Roads fuel cards, we have the head of the company there, Gina, who we met in Hershey there. They'll be able to answer questions. They'll be there explaining the program, tell them how the program got started. This is relatively new. It's been about 2 years, Open Roads. It's fantastic. We're going to talk to the inventor of Tire Minder, which is a tire pressure monitoring type system that we're really excited about talking to Michael and Jamie. And we're going to talk to Lee Tiffin, and he's the grandson of Bob Tiffin. Bob Tiffin was the owner, or is the owner. So Lee is the CEO and president?
President and CEO,
I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep everybody straight. I can't wait to talk to him and just hear his backstory. They have a lot of story, like family story within Tiffin. Why did it skip to the grandson? I don't know. Some great questions. We really want to get to know them. He will be there, I know already, on Wednesday, the 17th at 12:30 is when we'll interview Lee Tiffin. And we have so many exciting podcasts scheduled for January. So if you're not going to be in Tampa, all of these episodes will come out on the RV Life podcast each week on Wednesday at 5 a.m. They go live on all podcast platforms.
Every single one of them. But I have to say, and I always say this, we like Apple the best because they give us the best matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. They show us where
they
we're
show
at.
us all the information that we need to know for advertisers and all that kind of stuff. So listen to us on RV Life Podcast on Apple. You can listen on Google. You can listen on Spotify. You can listen on all the things. So we would love for you to just tune in and listen to the RV Life Podcast. This is the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, reminding you to have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.